Because
I have.
I'm not that into this place. I'm just kidding.
I have. I've watched
6.
six.
Wow, she's right. I think there's 7 up right now.
I have no idea how many there was when we shot this or how many we're into, but it's a unique situation for you and I and the team with you.
Yeah.
Today's guest is Danielle, and Danielle has a very unique, first of all, your story or how you got here is unique, and now what you're doing for us now and how you juggle
Everything.
all of that is still mind-boggling to a lot of us. Some of us are champions for you. Some
Thank
of us
you.
probably secretly hate you for your time management skills. I'm just being honest. So today, I'm really happy to have you on the show today, Danielle.
Happy to be here.
Happy
Thank
to have you here. It's so
Thank
nice when you
you.
show face.
Right?
Yes, it's like,
Yeah, it's such a treat.
an eclipse just happens
So it's
every once in a while.
your history here, or how you got here is interesting, but walk us down. Like I say this in almost every podcast, nobody says I want to be a mortgage agent. Mm-hmm. It's not something that maybe you thought about doing in and out of school. Like, what's your background? Did you go to school? People are always like, how did you become a mortgage agent?
Yeah, it's a fair question. So I went to school for law. So I actually have my law clerk diploma.
Oh, that explains so much about you.
So I worked right out of college at a real estate law firm, and I did that. And then I ended up at one of the 5 major banks and did that as well. But at the closing of one of my mat leaves, I think everyone comes to a point where you sit down and you're like, do I see a career path here, right? And where am I going? So cliche enough, I went online and did what am I good at? Job quiz.
Oh, no
For
way.
real. Yeah. And so
Wow.
one of the results was underwriting. And I'm like, underwriter? What do they even do? What industry would an underwriter be in? And that's how I came across your job posting for an underwriter. And the rest is
Wow.
history.
One of the things that still stands out to me today, and you may or may not remember this, but you were when I interviewed you, you said something to me that about, and I say this to new people all the time, that you think the bank, when you're a child, the bank isn't a business. You don't look
Yeah.
at it as a business. It's a bank, and it's brought to your attention that a bank is a bank. That's what it is, and you don't question it. You put your money there, you do, right? We trust the bank. We have a lot of trust in the system.
Yes.
But it still operates as a business. There's still profit and loss. And one of the things you said to me in our interview stage was, there are times we're going to be careful, uncomfortable about the products or the services I might be asked to offer that may or may not be in their best interest. And that's something I want to try and stay away from.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I was a client advisor at the bank. So I'm essentially the face of the bank, right? Whoever you deal with when you walk in, whatever your needs are. And we would have pop-ups on our screen, ask about this product. Maybe they want this type of credit card, limit increase. But you don't really understand the person, if that would work for them. Maybe a credit increase is not what they need at that time. Maybe they're searching for something else. So I just felt like it was a cold environment and not really a personable environment. And so I think that's why I couldn't see a long-term path there.
Yeah. I think even we can see parallels with Manisha's story. She felt similarly when it came to meeting targets and whatnot, because the targets are one thing, but not every client, I guess, meets that or needs that at that particular time. And unless you're sitting across from them, you really don't know. It's just a click of a button and moving on. So.
Yeah, exactly. You just have your target. How many products did you sell? You have no idea if it was good for them, if they really needed something else, as I said. So it just wasn't for me. And that's why, I love it here, because we really get to know our clients.
We do, and we'll touch on that in a second. I want to go. So you join as an underwriter.
Yeah.
We've had moments, you and I, but you join. I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean some good,
Yes, you do.
join as an. Okay, this is a positive podcast.
Yeah. Okay.
No, you join as an underwriter. I really didn't have a lot to do with the underwriting department back in those days. So you didn't really have a lot of interaction with me. I was more focused on the front end sales and the renewal department and what we were doing, and underwriting was kind of differently managed. It was almost treated like a separate business inside this business, which no longer exists.
Yeah.
So for those who wish that still exists, what was it like then when we had an underwriting department, and what did you, obviously you can take synergies from your banking career, but what was it about underwriting and learning that and being immersed in that type of environment that you liked or you didn't like?
So I guess we'll start off with what I liked about underwriting and our department. I did like working for a team member, right? So I really did like the fact that the agent understood the client and what the client wanted, and they would bring you, essentially the package or what they were thinking for the client. And then as an underwriter, you go through the different aspects of what product would be suitable for them based on certain things, right? So their credit score, their debt servicing, and, the goals they had for refinancing. So that I really enjoyed. I enjoy the puzzle of underwriting, right? Like you're trying to fit certain pieces together and then look at it as an overall picture and make sure it works for that client. So that I really do love about underwriting. Maybe what I didn't like so much was that I was never interacting directly with the client, right? Because I feel like you could miss certain things. It's like broken telephone, right? The agent might not ask the perfect question or something that I would have asked. And so I do enjoy that now I get to do everything.
Right? It's a lot different model now. So COVID changed a lot of things for a lot of people. In this particular company, it was a moment where, and I mentioned this before, against my will, we pushed the button and we changed a lot of things.
Yeah.
Do you remember the phone call I made to you?
Yes, I do. Yeah. It was just, I think you knew my answer. Well, I think you knew my answer. You just called me and you were like, hey, listen, like we are restructuring. This is what's going on here. I would really love you to stay a part of the team and try to be an agent. What do you think about that? And before I could even wrap my head around it, I was just like, yes, in the same breath. Like I don't even, but I think it's because of my trust in you. Like I trust you. You never like steered me wrong since I've walked in these doors. So I knew that whatever you had as the next step in like your blueprint, I wanted to be a part of. So I think that's why I was so quick to say yes.
Sure that?
It's a true ride or die. I was going to say, I think I've questioned it a few times, but I'm happy you're.
Yeah.
So that call, I remember making it. I made it to another underwriter at that time who was like, nope, not doing that. Absolutely not doing that. And I was like, okay, I understand, but that's the direction that we're going to go in to make sure that we are able to deliver. What we noticed during COVID, which was probably happening all along, but COVID was a really big it really magnified this problem, was that easy deals got done quickly. Which doesn't mean it doesn't happen today. I just mean in a big department like that, easy deals were put forward and got done quickly. Not that that's what you were doing.
Sure.
Office dog. Is those deals were done quickly. Deals that appeared to look like they were missing some pieces or weren't going to be a little more challenging were then pushed back. And the timeline for the client was always the same, right? So
yes,
when we were looking at it, we were like, what if the underwriter became the agent and the agent was able to answer these questions and do these things a lot faster than an underwriter waiting for an agent to get back to you, waiting for an agent. And when I was dialing your number, you're right. I knew you could do it. And that's one of the things that you said to me, that was this moment in time where you're like, do you think I can do this? Because you hadn't been an agent. You hadn't been talking to clients.
Yeah.
If at all, very little. And the start of the process was something you were completely out of and you would have to learn.
Correct.
And a changing environment like COVID and on the spot, because by the way, it starts tomorrow.
Yeah. There wasn't really a long transition period, but I think just being comfortable with our process in the company, I was okay with it. Like I did have some doubts, but I knew that like with your leadership that like you would guide me through it. So whether, you know, I needed help on certain aspects of the process, I knew you'd be honest and be like, okay, let's work on this. You're good at this. Maybe we need to improve here. Right. So, I mean, it was life-changing for sure. I'm happy I made the decision.
Yeah. I also wanted to like note the fact that I think even the transition for you was a lot different than the people that were in the office every day, right? So they have their 2 p.m.s, we have meetings, we're constantly engaged, where it's like you kind of had to do a lot of learning yourself.
Yes.
Which is something that we know isn't the only thing you do in a day, but you had to learn, you had to like figure things out, and you kind of had to just ask the right questions.
For sure. Yes. I can self-regulate, right? So like I can prioritize my schedule, and I do like to do that. But I think that I definitely miss certain things, right? Not being here every day. But I've enjoyed the learning experience as well.
So we're still rewinding, and your previous position's gone. You're taking a new one. You're doing a leap of faith. It's COVID. You're homeschooling. For the most part, based on how your family dynamics work with jobs, you're the main hub at home.
Yeah.
You're changing a job, career.
And diapers. Because Nuborrow was like fresh.
Laura was still really
Just
young.
had a new addition to the family.
Yeah.
And you're learning how to juggle all of that. We're parents. We have health concerns of our children and COVID and how we're going to make it through. How on earth? I mean, you never complained one time, you complain now a lot.
I mean, I do. I think I've got more comfortable in that department. But I think as long as every aspect of your life is a priority and you have passion for each, you're going to find a way to make it work, right? Like I think anyone in my position who, of course, your kids are a priority. Of course, you know, your job is a priority. And if you just have passion behind it, you're going to make the time in the day, right? Like my day is not a typical 9 to 5. Maybe some days it's like a 7 to 12 and then I resume at like 7 at night for another few hours, right? Like it really depends on the day. But I have like passion behind what I do. And I always check in with myself to make sure that's still there.
I think that from the inside, because you were on the outside during COVID, you're one of the only agents that remained outside, as Ali alluded to, that makes it work.
Yeah.
Right? We've had lots of examples of it not working, but you worked here on feet on the ground for a long enough time that you really understand the process and understand what we do and why we do the things we do in the office, that I think you're able to translate that. But how do you manage to juggle outside of, like you said, passion?
Yeah.
I know what it was like for me trying to run the company and homeschooling, and we also had a new baby, and homeschooling and kindergarten homeschool, which is a complete waste of time, to like grade 2, and managing, you know, everybody's mental health. Like homeschooling sucks. If you liked it, I'm really impressed. It was really difficult to try and manage a career and homeschooling. And how did you manage to walk through all of that?
Well, it didn't look pretty. Like I will say, you know, it's, if you had like a little camera in my house, I was just running around like with a laptop in one hand and, you know, trying to figure out what my kids were supposed to be doing online at the time. Right. But I had to like delegate, right? So my oldest at the time, I think, was 9. So he would be on his computer and then with my other 2 to make sure they were sitting if I had to do a meeting or take a call. So just delegate and you make it work. It's like day by day process.
She makes it look so easy.
Right?
I'm stressed thinking about it.
I happen to know that that's not how, at least at my house, it was not like that. I remember taking business phone calls and trying to teach or talk my child into answering the question or engaging or doing what they're supposed to do. And Daxton was in kindergarten at the time, and man, like he would lay on the kitchen, across the kitchen table, chairs. He would refuse to do something, and I was tasked with making sure he was doing that. And honestly, I was at the point where I just didn't care. I'm also trying to do this over here. If you don't want to make the letter A in Play-Doh, cool, don't do it today. Like, it's not going to ruin my life.
Yeah.
But you know what a challenge. And now to this day, even, you're making audit calls during drop-off time or pickup time, trying to get your day all organized.
Yeah, you're like, where are you? I'm like, I'm driving. Like, I'm doing school drop-off. What do you mean?
Yeah, well, it's not just that you're a great time manager. You're also task-oriented, and you are hitting, like, you're servicing clients still, like, at a great number every month.
Thank you.
Enormous amount of stuff going on, plus you're closing files and meeting deadlines, and still managing.
Yeah.
Not by yourself, but you do. I know that you are a full-time mom and a full-time employee at the same time. There's got to be be some time that's not left for you.
No. I have to, like, hide myself in a closet for some alone time. Have to, you make it work where you can. I watch TV on my cell phone at like 12 o'clock at night to get my show in, my alone time.
Yeah,
it's true.
You just, you get more hours in the day when you need them, right? So wake up earlier, go to sleep later if you want alone time.
I did office meetings in
Your shower.
The shower.
Yeah.
Not with the water running.
It's fully
a good
dressed,
echo, though. Because that was one of the few places that had a lock, and they never checked their own room for me. So I went into their room, locked their door, and stood in the shower to do my business meetings, because it was the only place they literally didn't look. So I know that.
I'm pretty sure I remember asking you, being like, Danielle, where are you sitting right now? I'm in the basement. The kids don't know I slept down here.
I know. I think I had to do one of like the team calls that we were doing at that time, and you like zoomed me in, and it was like a really dark room background.
And she's like, if I mute, just ask me if I have a question to answer, because I'm gonna be on mute.
Yeah. It was fun times.
It was tough, and you still managed to do it today during summer holidays or whenever.
Yeah,
you're still consistently helping clients, which is something that, as I'm in a household that's super busy like yours, I still admire that you're able to do what you do and still manage. It's not easy, for sure. It's not easy. So if someone was to say to you, and we ask this question on every podcast, what is it about Nuborrow? What is it that, if someone said, well, what do you do, and why do you stay there? Why do you work there? What would you say?
Yeah, I would say that the difference at Nuborrow is really the culture, right? It's the culture that Nuborrow has, and it's so apparent, right? I don't think anyone can walk through our doors as a new hire and last 1 week without knowing what the culture is. The difference here is like really great leadership, and I'll like keep saying that. You really steer our ship always in the right direction. So I have to thank you for that, because I feel like if I didn't know you personally and like the Nuborrow management personally, will I still be here? I don't know. Like, I think that makes all the difference, because I know what our culture is about. I know that we're not mortgages only, right? Like, we care about our clients. We care about each other, even though like we have independent sales, right? I think that if we need help on a file, like, we can always reach out to each other and be like, how do we help make this client happy?
Right.
Yeah. And that's always what we care about. So that's our common denominator.
I think one of my favorite things about our relationship is when I do call you with some sort of change or something that we're doing, or I've got to make a decision, you and Jasmine are both famous for stopping me before I finish the sentence usually, and saying, you say what you just said is, you're the captain of the ship. If you have to steer it that way, I understand.
Yeah.
And Jasmine, usually when I say something where I got to do this, whatever you need, I know you make a decision based on all of us, not just. And that's what I try to do. I think I do agree with you. I think that is it. It's the community. It's not. Well, I just did an interview this morning with somebody, and you're not a mortgage agent, and you don't have. If that's what you want to do, then this is not the place.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because
yeah.
it's not interest rate based. It's how can we solve the problem that's on hand? And then you said putting puzzles together. If you like solving problems, then Nuborrow is the place for you to be because we specialize in fixing problems.
Yeah, 100%.
So that brings me to client stories. You've been here for a hot minute. You've worked in underwriting and you've worked in renewals. And we were saying this to Mark on one of the episodes. Renewals is a challenging place to live because it's either an amazing story of plan followed, plan worked, everything fell into place, nobody veered from the plan, and you're graduating them.
Yes.
Or something along the way, because life gets in the way. That's just happens. What you can't always plan for some unexpected surprises. Life got in the way, and you have to develop an entirely new plan.
Yeah.
What client stories or what moments come to mind for you?
It's that's a tough one. Okay, so I want to start by saying that every one of my stories with every client weighs on me in a great way. Why? Because, we always get to the finish end, right? So some stories are more traumatic than others, but I think that the experience I have with each and every one of my clients does impact me for the future, whether it's the future working with them again or somebody else. One that does come to mind time to time is I had a client, he was in enforcement, right? So that's the thing with renewals. Like you said, it's not always a pretty picture. So he was in legal enforcement and I finally got a hold of him. I've been trying for weeks. And he's like, listen, I have a brain tumor. He's like, I'm not well. I'm in and out of the hospital. I have surgeries lined up. I need to keep my house for my kids.
Oh my God.
Yeah. He's like, can you do anything? Or am I just done here? And I remember like, wow, okay, this is really heavy. Like this is his life. How am I going to help? How do we do this? And, thankfully it did turn out in a happy ending. He had a lot of equity in his house, and this is where knowledge is power, right? And clients come to us for the knowledge, right? Sometimes they think they have no way out, but when we just review everything and use our expertise, we can really find other ways that they may not have thought of. So he had a lot of equity. We were able to do a new first mortgage, pay off his arrears, boost his credit score with paying off some debts and collections as well, and have the mortgage paid for 1 year so he could focus on his family, focus on his surgeries.
Right.
And he still thanks me to this day. And that was years ago. So that one has to be one
Covered.
one for the
speechless.
books for sure.
Those are the things that make what we do matter, make the tough phone calls where people aren't happy or don't quite understand why the plan didn't come together, which is what you deal with a lot of times. That's an amazing story, right? That's something that, but what do the negative or the stories that don't work out, the plans that don't work out, what do they leave an impression on you?
They do. It's hard to not take everything personally, right? So again, we strive for that connection with every one of our clients, but you just have to think, what would the alternative have been to kind of get comfort in stories that maybe don't have the best ending. And learn from them, right? There's certain things that I used to say back then that I don't anymore because I want to be optimistic with our clients, but I also want to make sure I have all the information, right? Before giving them a plan, where maybe at the beginning I'd be very quick to be like, okay, like we can do this or we can do that. And I would think out loud with them. Now I'm like, let me take your stress. I'm going to get back to you. Let me like review your options and we'll figure out the best plan. But sometimes it may not be the client's ideal, right? They may have to get family involved and ask their like mother-in-law to be a co-signer, something that takes, away a lot of pride, right? Like that's a tough one. So, or sometimes they may have to downsize and maybe we help them with a new home purchase in a few months, right? So not everything works out perfect, but I think as long as we're there for that emotional piece, that support, and for them to know that even though this may be the end of this refinance journey, we can always help with the other chapter, which would be like a new home purchase or another plan for them down the road.
Yeah. And ultimately, a lot of our clients are just looking for honesty. So they've been steered in the wrong direction. So they would much rather us be honest and realistic as opposed to being misleading in a sense, because you're dealing with people's families and their
100%.
home and assets that in most cases are one of their biggest. So taking it literally, being honest and transparent and leading with that knowledge is really what a lot of clients look for. When it comes to guidance and looking at equity options in their home.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's the best gift you can give somebody in what we do is the honesty part. And I know lots of times it's not palatable. It's not what they want to hear. It wasn't that plan. It's not what they wanted to do. But what you see, just quickly talk, we're going to wrap it up soon, but talk to me about that graduation moment where so they've gone through the front end, what we call the front end process.
Yeah.
You've got them in renewals. They're working through the plan. You take them another step. You see them the following year, and they finally get to, reach or accomplish a goal. That's a special.
Yes. That's my favorite part. I love that. I love, and I've taken clients through that graduation, and it feels great because that's where, like, as a team, as Nuborrow, we know our process really works, right? When they get to that last year, that last step, and finally we take them from like a private mortgage, maybe the first year, maybe it's a B lender, credit union the next, and then we're at graduation time and I get to give them a call and say, you did it. We're here.
Yeah, right. Goodbye. Right? Well, in reality,
we're
right,
here if you need us,
yeah.
but you got this now,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it feels amazing. And that's like all our work come to full fold. So.
Yeah, when you come through this, and we always say we're not the first choice. One of the big major banks are, a relationship with a credit union. When all those things fail and you don't really know why, and we show you why, and we give you some strategies that are proven for the last decade to work and help you implement them through client care and through renewals.
Yes.
And they do get to graduate. That's, for me, is why I started it and why I love when we do an audit.
Yeah.
Because we look at each deal and I say, oh, they're leaving. And you're like, yeah, it's 5-year fixed.
Yeah.
This bank, they're so happy. It's going to be so happy. And I'm like, why'd you bother me to audit this?
Yeah, that's usually
Don't
the
bother
call.
me.
Like, really, this is what you want to talk about?
Right? And I'm like, that's so amazing. And if you or Mark or the people in renewals, usually it's still a lot longer audit than it needs to be because you tell me, I'm so happy about this one because this happened and they were really upset 2 years ago and I showed them, this strategy and it paid off and now they're getting finally what they want, which in some cases it seems like, oh, well, it's terrible. It took 2 years. Well, in some cases people don't get you said knowledge is power. They don't get it at all. And they sell, they downsize. They don't know that there's another way out, or they claim bankruptcy. They do something that there was another way if you just, are open to learning strategies that we teach here.
Yeah, if you get that advice. And I've never had a client when I'm graduating them, right? And we're going through like that prime A mortgage that they've dreamt about for so many years. I've never had them say like, oh, I could just like walk into a branch and do it, right? Like they always are so happy to work with us and to finish that process because we were with them from the start. And they're so happy.
It's like a level of loyalty too. Because we did it together. It's like a team. It's like, let's make it to the finish line together.
Yeah, they're so excited about it.
One thing that the reason why renewals and client care are so important to me, because in early days, when we started this, I had a client call, very upset, got passed through to me that they dealt with us. They took an alternative product to get to where they wanted to be, and they want to pay it out today. And they're so upset and they're so angry that they didn't get enough touch points and that nobody from renewals called. And at that time, we didn't have a full-fledged renewal department. I was like, man, we're missing a huge hole here because it was such a short-term solution for them, and their bank is paying it out. And I said, well, hang on a minute. That's amazing news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It worked. And it changed the complexion of the conversation because the lady said, yeah, what you did work.
Still with
But
an
you
angry
didn't
tone.
call. And I'm like, okay, I do apologize that we didn't call you, but I'm so happy that you're graduating. I'm not in school. I'm like, no, you're moving from the alternative world back to the bank, which is what I can see here in your notes that's what you really wanted to accomplish.
Yeah.
So I'm so super happy for you. I called to complain. I'm hearing you, but I'm also, I want you to know that I'm really happy that you're not going to be a client anymore, that you're graduating. That client is still here, right?
It's amazing.
Has come back for a purchase of a different property, only because what we do does work. And you and Mark and renewals and client care, I think front end, you lose sight of it a lot of times, that sometimes you're putting together so many plans that then you call and be like, why did you do this plan? Well, we did it for you. And you're like, okay, well, it's going to work and they're going to graduate and you're lucky you get to hand out the diplomas.
Exactly. Yeah. I do. I take that job very seriously. I have a lot of pride in that too.
Well, I'm going to wrap it up with letting you know how proud I am of you, that you took something that was completely unknown during an unknown time and COVID, juggled all your family, all the little people that you have, and were able to turn it into a whopper of a career.
Thank you. I couldn't have done it without you. So the thanks go
I
right
agree.
back to you.
I
I know you do.
No, but just such an amazing accomplishment. And your
Thank
work,
you.
I feel like, and Ali mentioned this, sometimes you're so disconnected from us with your day-to-day managing of just your own schedule, but you're still consistently waving the Nuborrow flag, still all in. And I really admire that about you.
Thank you. No matter where I am, that flag will be waving.
On her way to school drop off.
Maybe on vacation somewhere. No,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
But I appreciate you. I know we appreciate you around here. And
Yes.
you're a
Thank
big
you.
part of the
I'm
team.
so happy to be here. Thank you, guys.
All right. See you
Thank
later.
you.
Thanks.
See ya.